How to attain enlightenment. This is going to be one of the most important videos that I put out there because it's going to give you the step-by-step process on how to actually experience the truth of no self or spiritual enlightenment. And there's a couple different ways, but I'm going to try to fit them all into one video, and then I'm going to go into a super in-depth explanation as to how to perform my favorite one. There's a lot of different methods and techniques you can use to attain spiritual enlightenment or the truth of no self. And those include activities such as meditation. Now, if you haven't watched my video as to what spiritual enlightenment is, that's the first part you got to watch. That was the video right before this one, the first video I ever posted. And I suggest that you go and watch that so you have a good idea what we're talking about. But in that video, I described to you that spiritual enlightenment is basically taking apart three strings in your body and mind that mash together to create this illusion of self. Those three strings creating this knot are images of the face, feelings in the body, and words as thoughts, like dialogue as your thoughts. So all these techniques that I'm about to describe to you, they all are different ways of pulling apart these three strings, getting them untangled and popping them out so you see those three things exactly as they are, just words floating around in empty space, images in the mind floating around in empty space, feelings in the body floating in empty space, but a way to untangle that mess so you can experience what your true self really is. So all these methods I'm going to describe, that is what they all have in common. That is what they do, but there's different ways of doing that. So meditation is one. Meditation doesn't take a whole lot of mental effort in a way where something like self-inquiry will. Meditation is a way to take all those three strings and separating them and untangling this knot by relaxing your mind. So just by relaxing your mind, you're able to this knot kind of just slowly loosens up and untangles on its own just by quieting your thoughts, quieting the mind. So that's one way, is finding a good meditation practice. And I'm talking about real meditation, not just laying there and saying something along the lines of, oh, I'm just going to kind of relax and unwind after a stressful day. I'm talking about real meditation where you truly learn to silence your thoughts and to completely still the mind in a way where your thoughts and your mind are basically like a lake without a single ripple on them. And after you do that and you practice that, you master meditation, after many, many, many hours, you can awaken to this truth of no self through that method. But the most important way that I have had success with is self-inquiry. Now, there's two different methods of self-inquiry. They both have to do with looking with your awareness. But as I described in the last video, if you have watched that, which you should have before you watch this one, I described that what your true nature is it is empty space inside of this room that you're sitting in. It's not a point localized inside the head. It's not a point in the body somewhere or the body as a whole, but you are empty space inside this bubble of perception that you are located inside of. So one method of self-inquiry is by honing down and putting your awareness on that empty space. And this is going to sound confusing at first because it might sound like a lot of, woo-woo nonsense. However, this is a very effective way to realize enlightenment and the truth of no self. So as you're sitting there, the way you do this particular method of self-inquiry is, I'll give you an example of what putting your awareness on the empty space is. So imagine, if you want to, you could do this right now. You can close your eyes and notice how you can put your awareness on the feeling of the right hand. And then when I tell you to switch it to the left hand, you can put your awareness on the feeling of the left hand. Both of those hands are there at the same time, but you can choose which one to put your awareness on. You can put your consciousness and awareness on the right hand, and then the left hand, and then maybe the right foot, and then the left foot, and then maybe the chest, and then maybe the noise in your room, or maybe the noise of your fan. And then you can put it on your thoughts, and then you can put it on your lower back or the back of your head. Notice that you can switch what you're focusing on to any sense perception around this room. Now, the point with this type of self inquiry is you're going to want to learn how to take that focus, that awareness, and put it onto itself. So instead of putting it on an external stimuli, such as a noise or a certain feeling in the body, you're going to learn to put that awareness, which you are placing on those sense perceptions, you're going to learn to take that awareness and put it on itself. So you're going to, in a way, make awareness aware of awareness. So as you're sitting there, you can close your eyes. You can put your awareness on the right hand, put your awareness on the left hand, put your awareness on the right foot, put your awareness of the left foot, and then take that awareness and put it on awareness itself. And immediately what's going to happen is when you try to do this, the awareness is going to snap to a body sensation. Like it's going to snap to a feeling in the back of your head, or snap to a feeling in your chest, or something like that. So it's going to take a lot of time to actually go deeper and put the awareness on awareness itself, and not get stuck on putting it to a body sensation. But eventually, what you're going to do is you're going to keep practicing this technique, and you're going to get better and better and better at ignoring those body sensations or noises or any of those external stimuli. And you're going to become a master at honing in on putting that awareness on awareness itself. And then once you finally do it for the first time, you're basically putting awareness on that empty space until, boom, enlightenment happens just like that. And you become this whole room that you're sitting in. Now, I want to discuss the last method of self inquiry, which is trying to locate your sense of self. I'm talking about trying to locate in awareness that thing that you most believe that you are. And in my experience, and this is what I think you should work on as well, is trying to find the thinker of your thoughts. That's exactly how I had my enlightenment experience. As soon as I discovered that there was no one thinking the thoughts, enlightenment spontaneously happened, and it created an experience of no self for me. So what you're going to do is you're going to be sitting there, and you're almost going to be having a battle with your thoughts, a fight with your ego, of your ego saying, oh, the me is right here. And then you looking with your awareness and questioning that, and the ego going back and forth trying to fight against you to explain that you are right here in the head creating the thoughts, and then you kind of conducting an investigation and looking into what the ego is saying to realize that it's wrong and you are not actually what the ego is saying that you are. So here's how you do it. So you're sitting here, and your thoughts are going to come in, and they're going to say, I am the one who's thinking these thoughts. And then you're going to come in and say, but who was thinking those thoughts? Those thoughts saying, I am the one thinking those thoughts. Because in reality, you didn't even think that sentence. That sentence of words just came in on their own, and they're trying to trick you into thinking that they were created by a subject, when in reality, you're getting stuck in this sense of illusion that there is a thinker when there's really not. So as you're looking at those thoughts popping up, maybe they're saying, I am the one who's thinking those thoughts. Look really, really deeply and try to find what you think that thinker is. If you say, oh, it's almost coming from a pressure in the back of my head, you can look deeper and say, But is that really a me, or is that really just a pressure in the back of my head? Where's the actual thinker? And then the mind is going to come up and say, well, the thinker's right here. The thinker is the one who was choosing which thoughts to have consciously. And then you got to look into that sentence that your mind just said right there and really look to see and realize that that string of words just produced was not coming from a thinker at all. Even the sentence, "I am the one thinking these thoughts," that sentence is a sentence floating around in consciousness on its own, and you're being tricked into thinking that that sentence is true, even though that's just a string of words being brought up in awareness that have no actual thinker attached to them. So once you look and you look and you look, and then you see that every time the voice in your head believes that it is the thinker, you can look at it even more closely and see, oh, wait, that was a sentence of words. That's not actually the thinker. I'm being tricked into thinking that the sentence, I am the thinker in my thoughts, is true, and that there actually is a thinker of thoughts, but those are only words that are saying, I am a thinker. It's not that there is actually a thinker. That's just words playing in the mind. So you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you keep fighting with the thoughts and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until something profound happens. And eventually you can see through the veil, and then pop, an experience of no self happens. Remember, we're looking for an actual experience. And for me, that last string of thoughts that I disproved before my first ever awakening experience was, if the thought of me is just a thought, then who or what is having that thought? Because it can't be a me having the thought if the idea of me is just a thought itself. If the idea of me is just a thought itself, then there is no me to have that thought. So then who or what is having that thought? And then I had an experience of the universe creating all those thoughts, even the thoughts of a me, when me isn't actually there. And that's when I had my first enlightenment experience, but we'll get into that in a separate video. Lastly, another technique that I want you to use is visualization experiments. And these are very, very profound. And the one visualization I'm about to explain to you is one that can really help you out if you're imagining it correctly. So we're going to do this visualization experiment right now, and just do it along with me, and maybe you can have an insight or epiphany as to what enlightenment might actually look like. So imagine that there's a radio on a table in an empty room, and there's a recording placed on that radio that's playing out loud that somebody recorded. And the recording on that radio is saying, I am the radio. This is me. I am the one saying these words right now. I am the radio. That's the words that are actually like playing out of the radio speakers, if you can imagine, because someone popped that tape in and it's playing out loud in this empty room. So you're imagining this radio playing that right now over and over. It's playing the words, I am the radio. I am the one experiencing all of these sensations. I am the one who is saying these words. I'm the one who is playing these words out loud. This is me. I am the radio. So look at that image in your head very closely and realize that if you were there in real life and you were looking at this whole thing going down, if you were actually there in real life, would you mistake that radio for being a sentient human because it's saying me, my? Would you think that there was a subject, like, somewhere in the center of that radio, maybe, like, in the battery or, like, somewhere in the wiring of that radio? Would you actually believe that there was a subject that was saying words when you watch that radio play the words, "I am doing this, I am this, me, my"? Or as you're looking at that radio playing these words, would you almost have a shift in your awareness saying, wait, even though the words me, my, I are coming out of this radio's speakers, that doesn't mean that there's an actual sentient being of some kind inside that radio. It's like I'm almost anthropomorphizing that radio. I'm almost making it a human in my mind because I'm hearing these words of I am the radio playing out of this radio, but in reality, there's no sentient being located inside that radio. Literally, this radio is just a non-sentient chunk of metal that's just playing words. There's no one in that radio playing those words. That playing of the words out of the speaker is just a mechanical process inside of that radio that no one is doing, meaning that there is nothing or no sentient being located inside that radio. So, if that is true, and in this scenario inside of your head of this radio playing in an empty room, then what actually exists there? Well, considering there's no sentient being inside of that radio, then all there is an empty room with no sentient being inside of it, an empty room just existing, no one inside this empty room, but yet the empty room still exists. There's just empty space and no actual sentient being located inside that room anywhere. So that's what you are. Take the radio and the actual hunk of metal that's the radio and make that the body, and then take the words playing out of that speaker in that radio and make it the thoughts in your head. What's happening is that you can almost imagine that your brain is playing the thoughts and words saying, I am a human, I am the body, my name is blank. The brain is literally playing that dialogue inside of your head. It's playing thoughts and images of the face, and that's creating the illusion of an actual sentient entity. But there's no one who's actually thinking the thoughts inside of the mind or having the experience. The only reason you believe that is because the thoughts are playing on their own, saying, I am the body, I am the thinker of the thoughts. When in reality, nobody is actually doing that. No one is actually thinking that. The brain is basically just playing these words on its own, but there is no actual sentient being inside the brain, inside the head, or located anywhere. Meaning, what is this experience that's happening around you right now? There's an empty room. There is no sentient being anywhere of any kind located in this room. There is empty space, empty consciousness, and this is what we call the big self as opposed to the small self. The small self doesn't actually exist. It's just that illusion of that thing you think you are right now. You're like an entity inside the mind, but that actually doesn't exist. The big self is the empty room is what we're talking about, and that is what your true nature is. You are an empty room, you are empty space, and you are not an actual entity inside the brain or inside of the mind. So by doing this visualization technique over and over and over and over, one day you're going to have an experience of no self, and you're going to feel it creeping up in the hours and days before it actually happens, and you know it's going to happen because there might be some weird sensations in the body. There might be feelings of the brain relaxing because it's realizing that there's no self, because there's a lot of actual benefits to enlightenment. One of them is a healthier body with less stress, because what happens is you don't realize how much stress is occurring in your body when the ego is in prime control. When the ego is in control 24/7, that's creating a lot of stress because the ego is constantly in survival mode. And survival mode literally burns calories and creates stress. You're constantly planning for the future, preventing negative things from happening, dwelling on the past. All of this is creating stress in your mind. And this stress literally damages the body and it puts extra pressure on the body. It makes the body very beat up and very tired because you're going to be in survival mode 24/7. Now, what enlightenment does is once you experience the truth of no self and realize there is no ego, there's no one to die, and you have that experience of the ego going away, that's going to reduce a lot of stress on the body and a lot of depression and anxiety is going to be reduced as well. Because all of these neuroses, all of these negative emotions that you experience every day on a day to day life, they all have to do with the ego being in survival mode. And that can actually affect the body physiologically. Because when you wake up to enlightenment, you're going to feel every single muscle in your body relax because there's not going to be tension anywhere in your body anymore because the body physically loosens up when the ego disappears. This is also going to result in a less of a need for sleep. And I remember the first time I woke up, I had an experience of no self. I remember I only slept for like 4 hours a night and it was freaking me out a lot because I was like, wait, there must be something wrong with my body. Why am I only getting 4 hours of sleep? I must be running off adrenaline or something like that. Or there must be something physically wrong with my body because why am I not getting 8 hours and I still don't feel tired every day? But that's because normally in your day-to-day life, your body needs to sleep 8 hours, 9 hours, 7 hours to heal from all that stress that the ego causes on a daily basis. But once you have an experience of the truth of no self, all of that stress is gone now, which means that your body is getting way less beat up on a day-to-day basis, meaning that it doesn't need to recharge as much as it used to, meaning that you're not going to have to sleep 8 hours a day or 7 hours a night. You might only have to sleep 6 or 5 or 4 hours a night now. And all these negative emotions that you have, they're all being created because you're constantly in an ego fight or flight mode. Depression, maybe you're depressed because you're saying that the I is depressed and the I is suffering. Anxiety, you're fearing for your life. Um, but these only revolve around an I that can only exist when an ego is there. And when you wake into the truth of no self, since there is no one anymore to protect, there is nobody's self-image to protect. There is no one to be affected by sadness anymore. Then all of these negative emotions come crashing down. And so that's why enlightenment and the truth of no self is a great way to clear up any negative emotions that you have for good, including the fear of death. Because just like I said about that radio, when you realize that you are not the radio anymore and you are not an entity inside of that radio spitting words and choosing which words to spit out. You're not a sentient being located inside that radio, aka meaning you're not a sentient being located inside the body, and the body actually has nothing to do with you. And what you actually are is empty space. Then what does that mean? It means that when the body dies, nothing actually happens. This empty space, this empty consciousness decides to exist. So that can reduce a whole lot of stress for you because part of this fight or flight mode you experience every single day has to do with the fact that you're trying to keep yourself alive. And that's the root problems of all of your stresses, all of your problems. I want to do this before I die. I'm afraid that this will cause me to die. I'm scared of not getting everything done before I die. All of these words are causing additional stress. And once you realize that when the body dies, this isn't the end, and you're still this empty field of consciousness for all of eternity, I mean, that really allows you to just sit down, relax, enjoy life as you want, and not take everything so seriously. Okay, that's about it. This might be the most important video on my channel that you ever watch. However, I'm going to go into a more in-depth explanation of my personal stories. I'm going to do a little story time next video as to how enlightenment actually occurred for me, some of the physical sensations that happened, some of the mental phenomenon that occurred to me, and just my overall story so you can actually see what this looks like in a real life example so you know what you're looking for and what you're going to experience when this happens to you.